Here we are at day 5. All the chevron squares have been pieced and squared up. I've laid them out again so that you can get a feel for the whole quilt. At this point, I did think that the quilt was a little small, so I went back and added a chevron square to the end of each row so that they are now 5 by 5 squares. Today, we are going to piece the top together. We're going to take the squares, right sides together, 1/4 inch seam, sew all of the squares into rows, open it up, do it with the next one, line them up, 1/4 inch seam, and do that for all 5 rows. Once we're done with all 5 rows, we're going to take them. Don't forget to press the seams all in one direction in alternating, so if the bottom row all the seams go to the right, the next row they'll all go to the left once you press. Once we get the rows, we'll put them face down together and sew the seams along the long sides of the edging, and then we will have our quilt top all pieced together. So here we are at the end of day 5. We are making our quilt sandwich. All of the squares have been sewn together and you can see the beautiful chevron lines. I think it is so very cute. So what I have done is I have found a surface that fits my whole quilt, in this case my kitchen table, because it's a small baby quilt. And what I've done is I've laid out the backing fabric face down. That was my first layer, and I've smoothed it out really well for this step. And then I'm using fusible flannel, and I laid that down on top. You can see there's a little bit of a border all the way around. You don't need much. And then my quilt top is on top, and I've given a little bit more of a border because I don't like to not have enough when I'm doing my machine quilting. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut along the side and along the top, and then I will have it all cut out, and the rest of it will go very quickly because this is such a small quilt to work with. Here we are once again with the backing fabric face down on the table. We are going to use the quilting spray to adhere the backing to the back of the fusible flannel, since it's only iron on one side. This is the quilting spray I use, and you always spray the quilting spray to the back of the fabric. Apply in even sweeping motions over all of the back of the fabric. You take the fusible flannel and lay it down, smoothing as you go. You can pick it up and reposition it as you need. Here are all 3 layers just about ready to sew. The backing, if you notice, I can pick up the flannel and it picks up the back. I can also peel it off and reposition it, but it stays really well through the sewing phase of things. And the top I'm ready to iron on now. It's not ironed yet. Just be careful around the edges so that you don't get the melty stuff onto your iron. Here are the threads that I'm going to use to do machine quilting on day 6. We're almost done. I'm going to use the pink on the pink chevrons, and then the brown and the green. On the back, I'm going to use the brown consistently all the way through. And then I have this really cool ditch foot that I'm going to use to guide me through the lines. This centerpiece here, you stick in the ditch and it guides it straight through for you. And then I'm going to do 3 lines on on each. I'm going to do one right down the center, and then I'm going to move my needle all the way to the left and do one in the middle, and then I'm going to change threads and do the brown all the way to the right. And I'll do that with each of the lines on each of the chevrons. Here's a quick shot of the ditch foot with a sample that I've pieced together real quick so that the colors will show up. I just wanted to give you a feel for what it would be doing underneath your quilt, in between the batting and everything. So first I'm going to stitch down the middle, and then I'm going to move my needle all the way to the left, and again the ditch foot will be in the middle, but the needle will be over, and so we'll get a pink line down this side, and then we're going to move the needle all the way to the right and have a third line down this side. Here is the sample swatch. You can see using the ditch foot that I got the stitch in the middle, and then this is all the way to the left and all the way to the right. This one is a little bit closer, so I think what I'm going to do is keep it all the way to the same side and then just flip my quilt from side to side so that I'm always using the same side. If I flip the swatch over on the back, it's even more pronounced. You can see how this line is a little bit further away than this line. So I like this distance better, and it uses less adjusting. So I will probably do that and then just flip it back and forth so that it's the same like this. The last thing I do, now that the machine quilting is done, is I take my walking foot and baste 1/8 of an inch from the edge all the way around before cutting all of the edges down and binding. Here's the stitching on the machine quilting that I did. You can see it's in the ditch, and then on each side for each line of color. And I love how clean the geometric lines look. Here's a shot of the back. You can see the nice clean geometric lines playing with the fanciful filigree on the back. Welcome to day 7. We are doing our bias binding on our quilt. We are almost done. All 4 edges of my quilt equal about 30 inches, which means I need about 120 to 125 inches of the bias. Now I choose to make my own. I found this really cute green fabric with the brown dots all over it to do my edging, and it matches. So to combine my strips of fabric into the continuous bias binding, you lay them right sides together. These are the salvage ends, and I left them on because they're going to be cut off. And I'm going to sew at a 45-degree angle across to bring them together. And I will do that with 4 pieces of fabric, and I'll have a lot of extra, but it'll be worth it. So here is the binding that's been sewn together. If you open it up, you can see there is a nice clean line diagonally across, and that will more evenly distribute the seam across the border and doesn't create bulky seams where the binding meets. And so I will do that on 4 pieces of my fabric, and I'll have a little bit of extra, but that's okay.
Thank you for watching this video. If you like what you saw, please take a second to click the like button now and to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, please check out my blog at www.areformedheathen.blogspot.com. Happy crafting!